Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday said he hoped that if Russia were to accept an immediate ceasefire proposed by the U.S., the two sides could use the 30-day truce to draft a comprehensive peace plan. But so far, Moscow has said it is waiting for more information about the proposal unveiled a day ago.
But as far as the Russian reaction to it, that's really the question here.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that response to the proposal would say a great deal about Russia's aims.
If their response is yes, then we know we've made real progress and there's a real chance of peace. If their response is no, it would be highly unfortunate and it would make their intentions clear.
Rubio announced the outlines of the proposal a day ago after more than 8 hours of discussions with Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia. Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly said a short-term truce is not the way to end the war. Ukraine has also long said it rejected a short-term ceasefire unless it included the withdrawal of Russian forces from territory seized, warning that Moscow could use a lull in the fighting to reposition its troops for future offensives. Kiev seemed to relent on that front Tuesday in a possible sign of improved ties with Washington after an Oval Office shouting match between Zelensky and President Donald Trump on February 28th.
You're gambling with World War III.
Trump subsequently cut off military support and the sharing of crucial intelligence. But on Wednesday, he sounded a positive note with reporters.
We have to see, it's up to Russia now, but we've had a good relationship with both parties, actually.
And his administration said military aid and intelligence sharing with Kiev had resumed. Ukrainian troops this week appeared on the point of losing their hard-won foothold inside Russia's Kursk region. Russia's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine in early 2022 has left hundreds of thousands of dead and injured, displaced millions of people, reduced towns to rubble, and triggered the biggest confrontation between Moscow and the West in 6 decades.
Russia has given the US a list of demands for a deal to end its war against Ukraine and reset relations with Washington. That's according to 2 people familiar with the matter Wednesday, though specifics were unclear. It comes after Washington had proposed a deal for a 30-day truce to break up the conflict between Kiev and Moscow that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine in early 2022. The sources said Russian and American officials discussed the terms in detail for the past 3 weeks. They described the Kremlin's terms as broad and similar to demands Russia previously presented to Ukraine, the US, and NATO. Those earlier terms include no NATO membership for Kiev, no deployment of foreign troops in Ukraine, and international recognition that Crimea and 4 provinces belong to Russia. On Tuesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he would agree to a 30-day truce as a first step toward peace talks, while Russian President Vladimir Putin's commitment to such a potential deal is still uncertain. The Trump administration has not explained how it is approaching its negotiations with Moscow. The two sides are engaged in 2 separate conversations, one on resetting US-Russia relations and the other on a Ukraine peace agreement. The administration appears to be divided on how to proceed. This all comes as Russia's defense ministry claims to have retaken territory held by Ukraine troops in Kursk in western Russia. Ukraine says its soldiers will keep operating in Kursk as long as needed and says its troops are fighting in and around the major town of Sudzha.
Hundreds of protesters rallied outside a New York City courtroom on Wednesday, demanding the release of Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil. His case has become a flashpoint of the Trump administration's pledge to deport pro-Palestinian college activists. He was arrested by Department of Homeland Security agents outside his university residence in Manhattan on Saturday. U.S. District Judge Jesse Furman had temporarily blocked Khalil's deportation earlier this week. At a hearing on Wednesday, he extended that order to allow himself more time to consider whether the arrest was unconstitutional. Ramzi Qasim, one of Khalil's attorneys, spoke to reporters after the hearing.
It is absolutely unprecedented. The grounds that are being cited by the government for purportedly claiming to revoke his green card and putting him in removal proceedings. This is a person who is a lawful permanent resident. This is a U.S. person. Those grounds are vague. They are rarely used. Essentially they are a form of punishment and retaliation for the exercise of free speech.
Khalil, a green card holder, played a prominent role in demonstrations against Israel's war in Gaza, which rocked Columbia's campus last spring. The Trump administration has, without presenting evidence, accused Khalil of supporting Hamas, which Washington labels a terrorist.
We have been abused really for a long time, and we will be abused no longer.
President Donald Trump on Wednesday threatened to escalate the global trade war with new tariffs on trading partners.
More tariffs on the EU. Will you respond to their retaliation?
Of course I'm going to respond.
That's after the European Union and Canada retaliated against his 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports.
The European Union treats us very badly.
During a meeting with the Prime Minister of Ireland, Trump said it was among the countries abusing the United States.
The EU was set up in order to take advantage of the United States.
Including Ireland? Is Ireland taking advantage of the US?
Of course they are.
Canada, the biggest foreign supplier of steel and aluminum to the United States, announced its retaliatory tariffs on billions of dollars of U.S. products starting Thursday.
We will not stand idly by while our iconic steel and aluminum industries are being unfairly targeted.
Canada's Finance Minister, Dominic LeBlanc, said it was a dollar-for-dollar approach.
25% reciprocal tariffs on an additional $29.8 billion of imports from the United States. These tariffs are in addition to Canada's 25% counter tariffs on $30 billion of imports from the United States in response to U.S. tariffs put in place on March 4th.
The EU's countermeasures are due to take effect next month, targeting up to $28 billion worth of U.S. goods.
Dozens of people rescued from a train hijacked by separatist militants in southwestern Pakistan arrived on Thursday in the city of Quetta. That was hours after security forces killed all 33 attackers to end a day-long standoff. Insurgent group Baloch Liberation Army, the largest of the region's armed ethnic groups battling with the government, claimed responsibility for the attack, which left 21 hostages and 4 security troops dead. The militants blew up rail tracks and opened fire on the train on Tuesday as it made its way to Peshawar from Quetta, the capital of mineral-rich Balochistan province. Several of the 440 train passengers were taken hostage. Surviving hostages requiring medical treatment were transferred to a hospital in Quetta. Muhammad Tanvir told Reuters that he was returning home from Afghanistan when the attack happened.
The situation was terrible. We didn't eat anything for 2 days. Our last meal was at sunrise, and after that we survived only on water. We even had to drink water from the train's washroom. Then last night our army arrived. By evening they had cleared everything. They gave us protection, served us food and water, and took care of the situation.
Another hostage, Aslan Yusuf, told Reuters that the militants grouped the passengers by their region of origin.
They kept shouting, "We will kill anyone who doesn't come out." Then, things took a darker turn. They began checking everyone's ID cards. Punjabis, Sindhis, Baloch. They separated us into groups. Sometimes, they took soldiers outside and executed them. Other times, they targeted specific individuals. If they had a grudge against someone, they shot him on the spot.
Hundreds of troops, special forces, and military helicopters joined the effort to free the hostages, who were stranded in remote, mountainous terrain. The Baloch Liberation Army had threatened to start killing hostages if authorities didn't release Baloch political prisoners, activists, and missing people it said had been abducted by the military. The group says the government denies the region its fair share of the benefits from its mineral resources. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said on social media on Tuesday that such cowardly acts will not shake Pakistan's resolve for peace.
2 U.S. astronauts who have been stuck in space for 9 months will have to wait at least a few days longer to return home after SpaceX on Wednesday scrubbed the launch of a rocket carrying a crew that was meant to replace them, called the Crew 10. NASA was set to launch a SpaceX rocket from Florida to relieve Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams from the International Space Station, but the agency said the launch was called off due to a hydraulic system issue with a ground support clamp arm for the rocket. The astronaut pair has been stuck on the ISS for the past 9 months after NASA deemed that it was too risky for them to fly home on the Boeing Starliner craft they arrived on, which suffered propulsion system issues in space. NASA says Wilmore and Williams cannot leave until the new crew arrives in order to keep the ISS staffed with enough U.S. astronauts for maintenance. The Crew 10 flight would normally be considered a routine astronaut rotation. Instead, it has become politicized, as U.S. President Donald Trump and his advisor Elon Musk have, without evidence, blamed former President Joe Biden for the fiasco. NASA had moved the mission up 2 weeks earlier than planned under pressure from Trump and Musk, the CEO of SpaceX. NASA swapped a delayed SpaceX capsule with a different one that would be ready sooner. The agency now says that the next potential launch opportunity is no earlier than Friday evening, which would put Wilmore and Williams on track for a March 19th departure from the space station.